Hi there, and thank you for tuning in to the Social Circus, where every week we dive into a variety of topics covering social media, mindset, and how to run your business. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Hello, my lovely listeners, and welcome to another episode. And before we get too excited about what we're going to be talking about in today's podcast episode, I wanted to share with you the fact that the Social Circus Podcast has won an award. So I guess I can now say award-winning podcast. So I have just attended last week in Melbourne, the Ausmumpreneur Awards and Conference, and the Social Circus Podcast was a finalist in Podcast of the Year. And I have to say, when I saw the contenders, I wasn't very optimistic that I was going to win any award because there was some amazing podcasts that I was up against. But I did come second in the Podcast of the Year category, and I came second to an amazing woman who runs a podcast on her journey with health and wellness and women who run businesses who struggle with health and wellness. So I feel really excited that I came second, and I feel really chuffed because when I was actually entering the awards, and obviously it's quite a process, I got to review all of the episodes, and when I entered the awards, it was several months ago, and I think I wasn't quite at 150 episodes. And one of the things that I did was I actually looked at how many episodes I had delivered. So I think it was about 145 when I entered, and how many guests I had had on, and how many guests I had had on that was their first time coming on the podcast. So it was the first time they had ever spoken on a podcast or been interviewed on a podcast, and it was quite high statistics. So as many of you know, I only have females on my podcast. It's kind of been something that I've stuck with since I started it, because I feel like, particularly as women, we're very bad at speaking out, having a voice and being heard. And so that was one of the things that was really important to me when I started the Social Circus, was making sure that women had a voice, and this would be a platform for them as much as for me. And I shared some of the statistics on how well it has performed on my downloads, all of those kind of things. But I guess what's great is I now have an award-winning podcast, and you are currently listening to it. So thank you for your support. I so appreciate that. I did also get some other awards. My Blooming Biz Academy came second in the online education space, and I came second in Business Coach of the Year. So I was a finalist in 4 categories, and I won in 3 of those. So I'm pretty chuffed, and I feel like a little bit of a rock star, if I'm honest, because it feels really exciting to be recognized when you work really hard in your sector. So that is my news. We are going to do a hard right turn now, and we're going to talk about custom GPTs. So I feel like it's really important that my job is to keep you abreast of what is happening in AI. And I know that everyone at the moment is talking about ChatGPT 5, and I am going to do another episode on that. But I want to give you a bit more of a summary of how that's tracking, and I don't feel like I've quite got my head around it to do that today. So I will be doing that in the next couple of weeks. So watch this space. I'll be doing an update on ChatGPT 5 and what does that mean. What I wanted to talk to you about today is something that I've been diving into really heavily in my business, and I've been running a lot of workshops and online classes to teach people how to use custom GPTs. And my hope today after this podcast episode is that you will understand what a custom GPT is and understand how you might be able to use and leverage it in your own business. So let's talk about ChatGPT to start with. Now, many of you know that I have really niched in to understand that particular platform really, really well. And there's a very strong reason for it. ChatGPT is the market leader in our large language models, or our LLMs. There are new AIs coming out daily, and some of them are amazing. And I will definitely do another podcast on some of my top 10 AI tools. But for me, by and large, I use ChatGPT predominantly. I have trained it incredibly well to understand my brand voice. It has lots of different projects in there, and I have lots of custom GPTs. So I've invested my learning really heavily into ChatGPT, and because it's the market leader, that really allows me to share that knowledge with many of you, because that's what most of us are going to be using as a first AI within our business. So with ChatGPT, there are different ways in which we can use the software, and these will depend also on whether or not we have a paid or free version of their software. So let's talk about our regular chats. Most of us have used a standard chat where you ask a question. Hey, Chatty, what can I cook for dinner tonight? This is what I've got in my fridge. Those kind of bog standard questions that will still give you really good answers, but that aren't necessarily tailored to how you learn, how you understand, and how you view the world. So I would call that like working with a generalist. So someone who has a great understanding, for example, of marketing, but might not understand the ins and outs of the marketing inside my business. So chats are still incredibly useful. I use them a lot of the time, particularly when I'm just throwing out ideas. Now, the next step up from chats is what is known as projects. Now, projects are currently part of the paid version of ChatGPT. So you need to have a ChatGPT Pro or paid account. And what I want you to understand about projects is they are a really juicy way of organizing information. And I would say that I use projects when I'm talking to, like, doing stuff within my own business, and I use custom GPTs to help and support other people. So to give you an example, I'm currently in the planning stages of 2026. And I'm looking at my mastermind, Digital Queens Mastermind, and what I'm going to deliver and what is it going to look like and all of the ideas. Now, what I've done is I've created a project for this. I've uploaded like my sales page copy. I've uploaded a list of all the classrooms I have in it. I have uploaded testimonials that I've been given. I have uploaded everything about that particular like service that I have, my mastermind, so that whenever I want to go and think about my mastermind and say, hey, I'm thinking about this, or here's a competitor, can you add this to the project? I use that as a very robust, very detailed brainstorming tool. So it knows everything about what I already offer. It understands what the mastermind includes. It understands other masterminds that I'm looking at and what do I like about those. And I'm using that project to work out what will Digital Queens look like in 2026. And what's great about that is it's very specific to one service within my business. Now, the reason I've chosen a project is because you can add things like documents. You can add things, when I say documents, obviously Word documents. You can add screenshots. You can add PDFs of testimonials. You can add URLs to the sales page, all of that kind of thing. So it's a lot more in-depth than your regular chat. And that's why it's a paid feature. So I really love projects, and I feel like they got a little bit overshadowed by the amazingness that is custom GPTs. Now, custom GPTs, as the name suggests, and so all of this language is so clunky with all the letters when you speak, but custom GPTs are essentially a bot. And you can build a bot really easily so that it understands specific components of your business. Now, I prefer to use these to give to clients. So, for example, in my mastermind, every single month we do a goal setting class for the month ahead. Now, that follows a specific methodology on how I do goal setting. It's not right or wrong. It's just how I, as Sarah, recommend goal setting. Now, I have a workbook to go with this. I have a Canvas slide deck to go with it. And I also have my own notes that I use because I deliver the class. Now, what I did was I uploaded those documents to a custom GPT, and I created it so that it understands this is the process that we go through every single month in our goal setting class. Now, it then took all of that information and it then created a bot that can take anybody who's in my mastermind through the goal setting process. So if they weren't able to attend the class live, or if they couldn't be bothered listening to the recording, they can go to the goal setting bot and go through my exact methodology using the bot. So it asks the questions like, this is the first thing we do, this is the second step, this is the third, this is the fourth. So it understands my methodology and my process, and it takes that person through it so that they get to the end in a much quicker way, but in a way that's really fun as well because it lets you explore a couple of different things. So custom GPTs are fantastic as a tool to give to your audience. But here's what I want to be really clear about. You can use custom GPT. So if I gave you my, for example, goal setting GPT, you can use that in your account if you have a free account. So you don't need to upgrade to the pro or the paid version. But if you want to build your own custom GPT, like a bot, you must have the paid version of ChatGPT to do that. So if you want to use one, you don't need to have the paid version. But if you want to build one, you must have the paid version. Now, for anyone out there who is in the space of coaching, training, online education, online courses, all of those kind of space where we are teaching and learning, I would say to you that adding a custom GPT will add a whole new dimension to what it is that you teach, okay? Because what it will allow people to do is it will allow them to shortcut the process of learning. So in one of my courses, I have a course called Low Ticket Launchpad. And I use AI over 5 days to teach you how to create a low ticket digital product. Now, once you have purchased that course, which you can do live with me or you can do it in your own time, like self-paced evergreen, I have built a custom GPT that will take you through that process and help you brainstorm the ideas. So all of the learnings that I've included in the slides, in the worksheets, everything inside that sort of mini course are contained within a custom GPT. And what that allows someone to do is access all of the learning without having to actually do it. Okay. Now, I know that the kind of the purest learner in all of us goes, but then they're not learning the process, or then they're not learning the methodology. And here's what I want to say about that. As someone who is in perimenopause and really struggling with brain fog and memory and particularly retention of knowledge, I sat down recently, I bought a really expensive course that I was so excited about, and I didn't even make it through the pre-course work. And I said to my husband, I don't know if I'm smart enough to do this anymore. And what I actually meant by that was, I don't know if my brain can currently cope with that learning. And so my beautiful husband, I love him, he decided to take so we bought the course. He downloaded all of the transcripts for all of the modules, all of the worksheets, and he built me a custom GPT. And so now I can go in there and access all of the knowledge and the application of that knowledge in my business. So the course was actually on launching, which is a very, how do I describe it? It's a very structured and very process-driven methodology that you have to learn. Now, I use that all the time for launches in my business, that custom GPT, having never completed the course. And the truth of it is, I understand digital marketing, I understand the world of digital products, and I understand launching. What I didn't understand was this person's methodology. And now I have the custom GPT. Every time I write in there and say, we're going to do this, it answers me and I'm like, oh, I can see what his methodology is. I can understand it without having invested 4 days of intensive learning, of which I'm likely to retain about 1% at this point. So it has made a huge difference to me to get value from a course that I purchased, because we, as in my husband, built me a custom GPT. Now, I could have built it myself. And like I said, I've built one for Low Ticket Launchpad, because what it does is it adds an extra dimension to learning for your students or your clients, or however you want to address them. And here's what I want to talk about. The reason that people use AI is because it shortcuts processes. So instead of me having to sit and think about for a whole day, what am I going to write in a reel, I can have a conversation with my AI and we can come up with ideas and we can brainstorm and very quickly get to an answer. Now, when it comes to learning, particularly with online courses, that kind of thing, most of our audience never complete a course that they purchase. Okay, I just want to be cognizant of that, because for someone who is in that space, when I did my first course launch in Feb 2020, very few people completed that course, and I can see that. And I was so excited because I'd poured my heart and soul into it. Now, the reason that people don't complete courses is varied. Many people start with good intentions and they just get sidetracked, they're busy, all of those kind of things. Now, with the benefit of me being able to build a custom GPT, if I had all my documents, you can build them in about 15 minutes, but you do need to be very organized to know what you want to input and tell it. So what I really wanted to inspire you with today was to first of all understand, when do you use normal chats? When do you use projects? And when would you use a custom GPT? But I wanted to push the envelope a little further and say to you, when could you build a custom GPT that would really add value to your audience, and what would shortcut some processes for them? Because remember, most of us are not using AI anywhere near as well as we could in our business. And if you step forward and start showing your audience, or I've embraced AI, I have a course or I have a mastermind or I have a membership, but I also have this bot that you can use that will shortcut that process, nobody in your audience is going to say, oh, I don't want that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be such a positive thing for you to be able to supply to your audience. So I want you to have a think about, if you haven't done anything with custom GPTs, first of all, remember you're going to need a paid version of ChatGPT. And secondly, I want to be really clear about this. Please do not pay someone thousands of dollars to teach you how to do this, okay? I ran a workshop a couple of weeks ago. It was I think a 1 hour, 90-minute workshop. I charged $29. I taught you everything you needed to know to understand custom GPTs and that. I have another workshop coming up, and I will just share the information with you. So I'm running a live workshop online, but it will be recorded, and it's called Build a Bot. And in that workshop, we're going to be running over 4 hours, and I am going to take you through the process to build a bot for your business. Now, I'm going to give you the information that you could build 6. But in the live workshop, I want you to have built at least one and understand the whole process and methodology. And then I will give you the instructions on how to build the other 5. So I have that coming up. I will pop the link in my show notes to the Build a Bot workshop, because that is $198 for 4 hours of learning, and you get the recording. Now, that is amazing value, because I want you to understand how to build a bot. I want you to understand how it can benefit your business. And I don't believe that you should be paying thousands of dollars for that privilege. I want to be really clear about that, because I am on the internet a lot, and I see that there are people charging. So someone was charging $6,000 to build a bot for your business. If you would like to pay that, I will happily take your money, but I'm also happy to do it for $198 if you want to join me for that workshop. So I just want to be really clear. Please don't let price make you think that there's something that I'm not teaching you, or there's some secret that you're going to unlock from paying more for this knowledge. I want to reassure you that I have built now, I think I've built about 20 bots myself. Probably 5 of them are for customers, and the rest sit inside my business. So I'm very adept at it. I'm very comfortable with it. And I want to just say it's not that hard. I want to be really clear about this. So I know that from where you're sitting, it probably feels like AI moved very quickly. And in the last 12 months, it has felt like we have hit the turbo boost in how fast AI is moving ahead. So I want to be really clear. You have not been left behind if you're only just using ChatGPT, or you've started using something like Perplexity, or, one of the other large language models out there. But what I do want to encourage you to do is please keep learning and growing. And I'd love to see you at my custom GPT Build a Bot workshop, but you don't have to come and join that. I want to encourage you to consider how you can use custom GPTs in your business, how they can help your audience to shortcut processes, shortcut learning, and to help them take action on what it is that you would have taught them. Okay. And that's what's really important, because we all go to workshops and we intend learning and for growth because we want to implement it in our business. Now, if you can create a custom GPT that puts all the learning in one place and allows me to implement and take action on it, that is actually the end game for all of us. That is what we all want for our audience to be able to do, is take action on what it is that we have taught them. So if your business currently is offering any kind of training, learning, development, you have masterminds, online courses, I want you to really consider what custom GPTs would do to help your audience get better value from what you are currently offering. Now, here's a really interesting thing that I'm going to wrap up with. Currently, OpenAI, which is the parent company of ChatGPT, has made it very clear that you are not able to sell custom GPTs, okay? And when they say that, they mean that you cannot sell it as a standalone. So for example, in my 5-day challenge low ticket launch pad, when people buy that, they get the custom GPT as a bonus, okay? So I'm not charging it as something separate. I'm putting it in as a bonus that is an inclusion. Once they have completed it, I give that to them, okay? So I want you to think about, first of all, technically you cannot sell a custom GPT as a standalone. I would say I don't think that's being very heavily monitored at this stage. But I think it's important that we adhere to good ethical guidelines, and we don't do that. But I want you to think about what value would it give to your audience if you were to create a custom GPT that accelerated their learning and allowed them to take action and implement what it is that they have learned from you. So I hope that today's podcast has got you excited and inspired about custom GPTs. I hope that you're considering how you can use them in your business. But if you're not ready yet, here's what I want you to do. log into your custom GPT account, probably on a desktop because it's easier to see. And on the left-hand column, there is like a new chat, search chats, libraries. And underneath that, there are 4 little circles in a square, like in a configuration, and it says GPTs. Now, if you click on that, even in a free account, it will allow you to search for GPTs that have already been created. Now, what's amazing about this search feature is that these people who've created custom GPTs and put them into the public domain for you to use for free. So if I was to type in here, email marketing for small businesses, it would have some custom GPTs that have been built specifically for that. If I was to type in social media reels ideas, there is a custom GPT built for that. If I was looking to do something in my personal life, trying to think what I'd be wanting to do. Say I'm trying to learn to run a marathon. Okay, if I wrote marathon training into custom GPTs, 100% someone has built a custom GPT for that. So if you're not ready to build your own custom GPTs and perhaps you're still on the free version of ChatGPT, I would strongly encourage you to go and search the GPTs and have a play with those that have already been built, because what it's going to do is it's going to show you how you actually use these as a tool in your life and in your business. So once you start to understand the power of custom GPTs, I think that's going to get you very excited about using them and creating them yourself. So thank you for tuning in today. As I said, I will have a podcast coming in a couple of weeks to talk about ChatGPT 5. So watch this space, but I hope you've got lots of excitement and value from today's episode. And as always, I will catch you the same time next week on the Social Circus. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Social Circus. As your host, Sarah Thompson, I am thrilled that you've chosen to spend your time hanging out with me. I would be so grateful if you could spare an extra moment to go and leave me a review on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you even felt more excited, you could share my podcast with your friends who you think would get great value from it. Thanks so much again for tuning in.